The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Hi, this is Tracy Payton. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a couple moments. We're waiting for a few more people to arrive. And I just wanted to let you know I am recording this webinar, so it will be posted on our training website. So we'll cover that website at the end. Because it is a webinar, we're going to be asking that you type in your questions in the questions area or the chat area on your control panel, your GoToWebinar control panel. And I'll answer those throughout the webinar. And I'll definitely, if for some reason I don't get your question during the webinar, I will address it at the end of the webinar. So we'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I have a website up. It's basically a training website that I use when doing these webinars. And what you see here is the forward-facing site. So this is what the customer sees. And today's webinar is going to be looking at suppliers and vendors, how to add them into your system, how to view them, how to view their details, and also select various suppliers and vendors that you want to set as preferred on your website. So we'll be talking and discussing that today. First things first, again, like I said, this is what the customer is going to see when they go to that URL. What we're going to do is log into the management area so that we can begin to deal with the suppliers and vendors that are on the website. So the first thing we're going to do is at the back of the URL, we're going to put /manage. And that's going to prompt us to fill in our email address and password to get into the management area. Okay, so what you see here is the management area, the back end of this particular website. And what we're going to start with is under contacts. We're going to take a look at this drop down, and where you see suppliers, this is where you see an entire list of the suppliers that have agreed to be with Trade Only, so on the Trade Only platform. So this will give you your database of suppliers that are on the website. So you can see that every supplier has a different account, and their name is actually a link into their supplier record. So for instance, if I go into Gemline and I click on the link, this is going to open up so I can see their information. This is very important when you are processing those orders or you're processing those inquiries. This is where that original PO is going to need to be sent when placing that order with Gemline for products that your customer has selected. So it is important that you know that you have your Gemline name, phone number, email, and address. So this should be all the contact information for that one supplier. So if we go back up to suppliers, again, we can go in and scroll through these various suppliers. You can search for a particular supplier. So if I wanted to put Bodic in there, I have Bodic and Rhodes right here. I can just simply select them. And again, it will open up their information for me to take a look at. Okay, the other area that you have is under this contacts. We've been clicking on suppliers, but you can simply add a new supplier to your website by just clicking on this little plus. When I do that, it allows me to add in a supplier. So this could be a local supplier that you might use. It could also be maybe a supplier that we don't currently have on the system and you want to add in a few of their products. The first thing that you would obviously do is add in that new supplier. So if I put a new supplier, Payton Graphics, I could go ahead and put in the phone, Email is mandatory. And you have an address, a city, state. So we definitely are going to need the city and the state. And the zip. Now what you'll also see down here in the additional information is any websites that you have that you're registered in, you'll see here. Most of you will probably just have one website, but if you have created company stores for any customers, you have that ability to add the supplier in to all those websites. So you're going to go through here and select the websites in which you want to add that supplier to. So most of the time it would be one website that's shown here. And if you don't select one, it will be visible on all the websites. However, if you have a variety of websites and you want to be specific as to this supplier only appearing on maybe 5 out of the 10 websites, then you can just go in here and check the websites you want that supplier to be a part of. So the last thing is, if you scroll back up to the top, there is a button called Save Changes, and we'll save our changes. And you'll see that Peyton Graphics, if I go back to contacts and suppliers, I can now search for Peyton up here. And now I've gotten Peyton Graphics. Now it will also be in parentheses, my supplier. That's going to indicate to me anytime that you need to change the information, you are responsible for making sure that's up to date. We don't have a way of updating that contact information, so that is going to be something that if you add in your own suppliers, that you'll be responsible for making sure the phone number, the address, and those types of things are correct on your site. Okay, again, suppliers, access to suppliers is really going to be something that you have access to, not your customers on the forward-facing part of the site. So again, this is your information only, and this is where you would find it when placing those POs. So again, that's where we have contacts, suppliers. It's how you add suppliers or you view suppliers' information. The other area that you want to take a look at is once you add a supplier, or once Trade Only adds a supplier with their products, if you come into this products drop down, you can select suppliers. And this is where you can determine which suppliers you want to have on your site, maybe some of the ones that you might want to hide, and of those new suppliers you've added, whether you want to make them general suppliers on the site or preferred. So just to kind of break that down a little bit, you have these 4 columns here. Preferred means that if a supplier is listed in the preferred section, that when a customer is searching a product such as a pin, that supplier's products will show up first in that search results. So in order for a product to show up first or be kind of given top billing, that vendor or supplier needs to be in the preferred column. The other column that you see here is the general column. The general column is where anyone that you want to show their products on your site, they need to be in that general column. So for instance, we added the Peyton Graphics. We added that new supplier. Their products are not going to be shown on the site until I go and grab them out of this new and unassigned column. So we can find them here. Where's P? Okay, there we go, Peyton Graphics. So because I added them into my supplier database, they now are appearing in this column, new and unassigned. So now for me to get their products to display on the site, I need to now select them and move them either to the general column or the preferred column. Okay, so then their products are now going to be displayed on the site. So again, general, just make, anyone in the general column is going to have their products on the site. Then if you don't want to do business with a particular supplier and you don't want their products on, you can simply select them and move them to the hidden column. and that will hide that supplier as well as all their products off your site. Now you do have some product options here, and for the most part we usually show the default to show all your products regardless of supplier, plus those from vendors that have not been hidden. So that's usually the default that we choose. But you have some other options here. You can show only your products from the selected vendors. So when you go in, if you have products that you've added for selected vendors that you've added, those products will only show. Or you have the ability to show both your products and vendors' products. So your products are going to be unique products that you've added specific to the website. So maybe there's a mug or a shirt that we didn't have as part of our product feed. You have the ability to add in that product, and if you do that and you only want those products to show from those vendors selected, you can select that second option there. You also have the ability to exclude any added products from the site. So any custom products that you might have added in that are in your My Products area, you can exclude those from the site. However, like I mentioned, most of the time we're going to be in the default where it says show all your products regardless of supplier, plus those from vendors that have not been hidden. So what you're basically saying is any vendor that's in the general or preferred is going to show on the site. And then once you've made your adjustments in this area, you're going to want to save your changes. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any questions at this point in time before we go in. Now, we're going to go into the customer information after this. So I just want to make sure that if there's any questions on vendors or suppliers, please go ahead and ask those now. If not, we'll move on to where you can find customer information and how you process any of that information that comes in as far as an inquiry is concerned from the customer. Okay. So we were over in contacts first, and I was showing you the suppliers database. You also have a customer database. So anytime a customer comes in and signs up on your site, their information will show here. So anytime a customer places an inquiry or an order, it's going to ask for them to create an account. When they create an account, their information will be brought onto the back-end management area under contacts and customers, and you can see all the customers that have registered on your site. Now you also have the ability to see pending registrations, and you can also download your customers. So if I had multiple customers here and I wanted to download that and export it out of the system, I can do that. It will typically export into an Excel type document, but you can just go ahead under contacts and download customers. And this will let you do that CSV file and then ultimately convert it into an Excel. So you can download those customers just by saving that file and then opening it. The other thing you have is pending registrations. This will show you any pending registrations. So anyone that might have maybe abandoned their inquiry that went onto the site and they didn't complete and submit their information, there will be a pending registration and they'll show up here. So you can maybe reach out to them if you were given an email or a telephone number and see what happened with their online order or inquiry, why they didn't complete it in its entirety. So you can see that there as well. Okay, so that's under contacts. Now the other thing is when an inquiry comes in, you have that ability to see the inquiry. So if I click on the inquiry, you can see all inquiries made on your site. So I don't have any inquiries at this point. So what I want to do is take you through an actual customer registering on the site and placing an inquiry, and then what we need to do to process that. So if we come on to the view site, and now if I come in and I, for instance, like this pin, I can put that in my cart. And I can select white silver. Okay. We'll just go with that. Location. And I'm going to add this as an inquiry, not an actual order. So I'm going to add to inquiry. Okay, so it's going to make me choose. Again, I wanted the white silver. And I'm going to quote all. I'm going to add to inquiry. And so you can see now under my inquiry list, I have this one product. So if I want to continue shopping on the website, I can. If I don't, and if I'm ready to send that inquiry, what I'm going to do is send. So if I click send, this is where it says I'm using a temporary account. So I'm going to want to complete my account details, and that's going to allow me to create a new account. So I have my information here. I'm just going to go ahead and put someone different. So I'm just going to fill out this information quickly. It will require a city and a zip code and an email as well as a phone number for that to go through. And we'll select. Okay, so I'm basically, oh, there's my California. Okay, so I'm going to update my details, and that's how a customer is actually going to register on your site. So you can see I've gone ahead and now I want to save and send. Now you will also, your customers get an actual login to the site. So once they do this once, they'll get a login so that they can go back onto your website and review any inquiries that they might have placed and see the status. So you can see that this is the inquiry that the customer is going to get a reference number for. So now if we go back in to the management area, so if we go back into the management area, we can go under contacts. And now if I go to customers, I should see that new customer, Patrick LaSalle. He's signed in and there's his information. So you can see the last time that he registered. Now if I want to see the inquiry that he sent through, I can come over to inquiries, select inquiries from the drop down, and I can see here's the inquiry reference number and his information. So if I want to open that up to see what products, I can click on that inquiry reference number. And this is where I can see the details. So again, here's the customer details for that inquiry. And then here's the products that customer is interested in. So it's going to give me a reference number. Now this reference number for this product is not the supplier vendor code. It's the unique reference number associated with the trade-only platform. So this is a code that you're going to now need to look up to access all that product information, including the supplier. So if we take a look at 55073 being that reference code, we can now come up to the back of our site here under products, and we can find that product. So if I key in that code that I just wrote down, which is 55073, and I match the item number, I can search that. Okay, and there's the pin that the customer was inquiring about. So if I click into the details of this pin, I now have the complete details of what I need to place either get a sales order out to that customer or to place the PO with the vendor. I now have that information. Here's the pin, here's my cost and sell price. So here's all my pricing information. Here's the additional costs that are associated with that. And then also along the right-hand side, you have the description. You also have the vendor info, so you can see that it's Sanford. And then you also have the product code, which is the supplier product code, 1000 white. So when placing this with the supplier, you reference the supplier code. You have imprint methods and any additional info right there on the bottom right. Okay, so that's kind of the order process and where you can find your customers. It's where you can find your suppliers. It's where you can select which suppliers show on your sites and the products that you want. I can take some questions at this time. Okay, I don't see any questions at this time, so I do want to say thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Again, we will be posting that. Oh, I see a hand up here. Let's see. I see, Dick, you have a question, but I don't see what the question is. If you could go ahead and type that into the question area, I can go ahead and answer that for you. Okay, well, if I don't see that question coming through, so I apologize for that. Dick, if you can, just go ahead and email me your question. I can definitely get back to you on that. It's Tracy, Tracey .Peyton, Peyton, at tradeonly.com. And I thank everybody for being on this webinar, and I hope to see you on many more of this webinar series. We meet every Tuesdays at 10:30, so there's some additional webinars coming your way, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.
The organizer has ended the session, and this